is Notsam Wrestling.
Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
Well, now we welcome back to Notsam Wrestling. He's the extraordinary man that can do extraordinary things, ladies and gentlemen. Finn Balor, welcome back, man. What's the haps?
I'm good to hear from you, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. Now, does this nickname, the extraordinary man that can do extraordinary things, does this put like a ton of pressure on you before you go out there? You're like, okay, you know, I'm really promising a lot of stuff that is very far from ordinary.
I got to be honest. I wasn't sure I was still being referred to as that. So, I knew that was a thing like about 4 or 5 months ago, but obviously, like I don't watch my own stuff on TV, so I don't get to listen to the commentary. So I wasn't sure if they're still referring to me as that. But I don't know, man. I've been under pressure my whole life. Another little bit won't do any harm.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. You seem to work best under pressure anyway, right?
Yeah, when the lights are on, man. Red light district.
So you just got back from Mexico.
Yeah, we were in Mexico on I think Saturday night, and then pretty much like straight after the show we flew to Texas, and then from there we flew to somewhere else in Texas, and we wrestled in Texas last night, and then after the show we drove like 4 hours to somewhere else in Texas. So we're somewhere in Texas now for Raw tonight.
When at this point, does it even like register with you that you're in another country? I guess in the moment you probably notice that the fans are speaking a different language, but other than that, it seems like you're in and out so fast that you're just moving.
When we get to the different countries, you can tell just like from the, you know, airports feel different, hotels feel different and stuff like that. But like when I'm in the States, honestly, man, it's been a blur. Like I thought I was in Dallas last night, and I was like, oh, this is Dallas, right? And he's no, this is Houston. I'm like, oh no. Or it might have been flipped around. I'm not actually sure which one it is.
Have you gotten one of those moments yet where you've thanked the audience or whatever, or done one of your promos where you go like, and we love you, Dallas, and they're like, it's Houston. What is he talking about?
Thankfully, not yet.
I guess you would know like beforehand if you know you're going to be given a live microphone. You're like, okay, let me check the geography.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm gonna double check everything.
That's amazing. Well, listen, the tickets for WrestleMania weekend. Of course, WrestleMania has already gone on sale, which is, I would imagine, unbelievable, right? You spend so much time in NXT, trying to get to the main roster and thinking about what it's going to be like and having these amazing takeover moments, all with the goal to have moments at WrestleMania and shows like that. Now that you're part of the main roster and have been for a couple of years, is it amazing how quickly you go from, I thought we just did WrestleMania, to it's time to promote the fact that WrestleMania is on sale again and that NXT TakeOver and Hall of Fame and Raw and SmackDown are on sale for the next one?
Yeah, all that stuff goes on sale Friday, but yeah, it's pretty wild. But you know, we release these tickets so far in advance because obviously they're hot tickets, but there's a lot of work to be done before then. You know, we still got TLC, we still got Royal Rumble is a huge one. So like, I try not to overlook what's kind of in the immediate future and try and like live as much in the present. Obviously, like WrestleMania is gonna roll around and we're gonna be like, oh man, is this WrestleMania again? But like, I try not to think too far ahead, like in that sense, and I just make sure I get to WrestleMania, and that's, you know, I got to get through tonight first. So that's kind of my approach to everything. But yeah, like talking about going from like takeovers, like I remember being in Dallas for a takeover, and like that seemed like, you know, the biggest show of, you know, what was going to be, you know, I was ever going to be involved in, and then just to see how things have grown so fast. Kind of moving to the main rosters, it's been a pretty wild ride, man.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about, you know, the fact that TakeOver is going on sale again, and that I'm talking to you about it. But what I started thinking about was even before TakeOver, you were on one of my favorite NXT live shows that I saw was the live show that they did WrestleMania weekend in San Jose, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was kind of like the precursor for what like takeovers were to become, because that was kind of like our first large venue, like out of state, what we call like out of Florida state loops, and that was wild, man. I remember a lot of like the kind of the newer guys that were in NXT that like hadn't been around the business too much or hadn't been out on the indies that much, and that show was announced. They're like, man, are we gonna be able to fill this? Is this gonna be like what's this show gonna be like? I remember, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it, because I remember telling them, like, man, this is WrestleMania weekend. Every wrestling fan in the world is going to be there. They're going to want to be involved in this show, and this is going to be one of like the wildest crowds we've ever wrestled in front of. And like that prediction was right, because like that night was like definitely a very, very special night for me. I got to work against Pac, Neville, one of the people who I think is one of the best in the world. And, we just tore the house down that night. My parents were in the front row, my brother, my uncle. It was a wild night, man. And that was kind of, I think, the night that, like, NXT, like, really arrived,
Yeah, I would agree, because that was one of those things where it was like, I don't know, 5,000 seats maybe, and it was this conversation of, I can't believe NXT thinks that they're going to do 5,000 seats. We've never seen anything like this. Like, it's so funny to think about now that really was, even, like, fans were talking about it, like, whoa, are people going to go? But then you go. That was the night that, like, Hideo hit the GTS for the first time. That was the Sasha Banks Charlotte match was the first time that people were like, oh my God, women can main event a show. And then you and Neville show up and steal the show with the main event. It was kind of the first, I feel like, takeover vibe show where every match was just building and building and building on it, and you were right. I mean, the fans were going absolutely wild from start to finish.
I've had pretty much goosebumps since we started talking about this show. Like wave and wave. But yeah, I think like did maybe like Sami Zayn attack Kevin Owens or vice versa on that show too? Like I know they didn't work, but like they were in the midst of their storyline too, and I think it was real low budget. There wasn't like a giant set. It was just like the little curtain, and it just felt so cool. It felt like that was really like at the time what like NXT like represented, was that like underground vibe. And I think that was that's a night that I'll never forget, man.
Yeah, were you happy to be such a huge part of building that brand, in the sense that like now I think NXT is in another building phase where they're getting to a whole nother level, but really you, Hideo, Joe showed up, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, like you guys were the guys that took this thing from, being a show that was at Full Sail to actually being a touring brand and actually being a conversation, where that was the first weekend where people were going, I think the NXT show might have been the best show of the weekend.
Wow. Yeah, obviously, like, hugely proud to have been able to be in a part of that. And, like, that was a real team effort. There wasn't, like, one person that was, like, responsible for, like, what happened with NXT. I think the fact that, we were all training together, we were all trying to, like, scrape by and get to the main roster, but at the same time, like, we all felt like we had a point to prove, and to prove that we did belong. And it was kind of like a bunch of misfits, kind of like traveling around together, and like those road shows were like some of the best times of my career, man. Like personally, like I was having so much fun in the ring. The crowds were awesome. Like those kind of smaller, more intimate settings, where we would do like house shows in say Cleveland or Columbus, where it's like 2,000 people in like in a rock music venue.
Yeah.
And that was a real cool period of NXT. It was awesome to be involved in it. It felt like it had a really good underground buzz, and now I think it's changed into something completely different, where it's like it's super polished. Like the guys in there are incredible. They can like transition seamlessly, like from NXT to main roster. I believe like no problem. Like guys like Adam Cole and Ricochet, they're changing the game. So it's obviously cool to have been a part of it. I think it was a different NXT, but I think the guys there like have evolved it into something completely different, and like long may it continue to evolve, man, because the more things stay the same, like I feel like people get bored. So if the next crop of NXT guys come in and continue to evolve it and change it, I think it's going to be great for NXT.
I feel like you were also one of the members of this class of like guinea pigs, where at the time they weren't necessarily, WWE wasn't necessarily embracing guys like you and Sammy and Kevin and guys who had this tremendous career before coming to WWE. It was almost like, well, that's happening over there and WWE is happening over here. And I feel like it was you guys coming into NXT and doing shows like that that made this sort of that generation transition into something where, no, there is this whole crop of guys that are making this career on the indies and in Japan and in Ring of Honor and all over the place that at one point people said wouldn't get to WWE. It was that class that sort of paved the way for that conversation to not really exist anymore.
Well, I can't say that. But like other people can say that, and like I'm humbled by that. But I can only speak for like my path, and I believe like there's a lot to be said about doing things the hard way, and like I feel like my career, like I've done things the hard way the whole time, and but at the same time I had a great time in doing it, and like I never felt like the hard way, it just felt like the long road,
Mm-hmm.
And there was never any shortcuts taken, and I think that's kind of like helped me be the performer that I am today, helped me kind of remain composed and like calm in like high pressure situations like at Raw and stuff like that, and on pay-per-view. So like definitely the whole process like benefited me, and if people didn't believe at one point, and maybe some of them still don't believe right now, but who am I to say? All I can say is like I've started at the bottom on the indies in the United Kingdom. I started at the bottom in New Japan, I started at the bottom in NXT, and I started at the bottom in WWE, and I've performed on SummerSlams, I've performed on WrestleManias, and we're getting ready for WrestleMania again in New York. So it's been a wild ride, Sam.
So you're basically the Drake of WWE. That's what you're saying, right?
And now I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. Are you excited at the prospect of having a pay-per-view match with Drew McIntyre at TLC? I think that, I don't know if people have fully processed, because it was just announced earlier this week on social media and stuff that was going to be the TLC match. And, I think it's kind of amazing to see you two in this, main event caliber singles match where we're starting to get a look at what the picture of the Universal title is going to look like over the course of the next, year or so. And, Drew McIntyre is obviously a standout, and you're obviously a standout on the good guy side. When do you start kind of going over in your head ideas for stuff you want to do in this match to steal the show, I guess?
The idea is never to steal the show. It's just to go out there and have a good time. I think I'm still trying to process the fact that I've got a match with Drew McIntyre at TLC, because I was, like you guys found out on social media. So,
you're just scrolling through Instagram and you're like,
my verified tweets real quick. It's like WWE. Finn versus Drew. I'm like, oh, man. But, yeah. It's crazy because like we kind of come from the same general area of planet Earth, and we've kind of had like very similar like career paths, but we've never like had a singles match like on TV. So we never really crossed paths on the indies, like kind of in the same place at the same time, but never like worked out there. And this is kind of the first time that we're getting to step in the ring against each other, and I'm sure he's a lot of stuff he wants to prove to me. I have a lot of stuff I want to prove to him, and really, I've got a lot of stuff I want to prove to everyone that's watching. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. It's good to be in the mix. It's good to be like kind of in that spot, and I definitely don't take it for granted. So like TLC, I'm going to pull out all the stops.
And Drew is kind of like you in the sense that he was obviously in WWE really early in his career, but he ended up having to go away and do things the hard way for a while. And then he comes back, and he's just a completely new athlete, a completely new performer. He's just working on an entirely different level. And I would imagine that even if you ask him, like, this is the best Drew McIntyre by a mile that anybody's ever seen.
Oh, for sure. And, like, credit to him to be able to, go through what he went through at an early age in WWE, and then, like, regroup and, like, reset his goals, refocus, and, like, do it, the way he done it, and come back in so composed and completely like different Drew McIntyre. So, credit to him for that. Like, I have ultimate respect for how he's handled his career, and I think he's definitely proved a lot of people wrong as well in doing that. So like guys like him that have done that, Jinder, you know, I think they're great. Like they're a great kind of guide for, you know, when this type of thing does happen to guys at WWE, that they do get let go, that, you know, the door's not always closed, you know, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. And for the people who can, you know, refocus and you know, dig in and work hard, you know, there's always a way back. And for those guys, like, I got ultimate respect.
Yeah. Do you ever think to yourself, like, what would have happened if you had been plucked out of the New Japan dojo or whatever it was, like plucked out early and ended up in WWE before you were actually ready? Because I'm sure, like, when we're young, we all think that we're ready for success right out of the gate. You know, I mean, I was ready to host a morning show when I was 21, and it wasn't until I was 35 that I realized what a failure, a miserable failure that would have been. Do you ever think about that? Like, oh my God, thank God that I didn't get plucked out before I was ready.
Well, the offer was actually there, like when I was 26, 27, 28. Like every year they came knocking. Like I'd done 2 years in the New Japan dojo. I was kind of starting to establish myself in New Japan. And, you know, there was a couple of phone calls made with, like, offers on the table. But for me, like, it never felt like the right time. And, like, honestly, when I finally came, I wasn't sure it was the right time either. But I figured, like, I had to, like, roll the dice at some point. And, you know, so I'm kind of the type of person that I'm never ready for it until I'm actually doing it. So sometimes you just got to be brave and make that decision and, you know, take that risk. And, like, definitely, like, it would have been a lot different if, you know, that first phone call had it came when I was 26 and I came to WWE then. Like, I don't think I'd be still here now. And I'm very happy with the way, like, things evolved with my career and, like, the, you know, the slow progression that I've made year by year. So, you know, I wouldn't change anything.
What do you think it was about that time that made, when you decided, okay, I'm going, was it that you had just accomplished so much outside of WWE that it was time to accomplish something new? Was it like it was a combination of things. It was like I felt like I'd pretty much done everything I could do with New Japan, like personally. You know, there was you know, there was storylines that were kind of been pitched around and thrown out there that, like, you know, that's what I was gonna go into, and it's just like I didn't really feel like it was gonna be any sort of different stuff. And then I was kind of like, I was 32 years old. I was kind of thinking, like, well, if I do another year in New Japan or another 2 years in New Japan, will the door still be open in WWE? Because, you know, that's like almost 5 years ago, and, like, the landscape was a lot different then. Like, they were into younger guys, and it just, I don't know. Every time when the opportunity came up, it never felt like the right moment. But I think when it came up that time, you know, kind of towards you know, I was about a year and a half into the Bullet Club stuff, and when the opportunity came, I felt like, you know, now's the time to go. But I think I've kind of, like, peaked out and maxed out, like, not only, like, professionally, but maybe personally, mentally. Like, I just needed a change. I'd been in Japan for 8 years. You know, I'd been, you know, kind of doing everything that I could to get to the top of New Japan. And I just felt like maybe it's time to, you know, reset and, you know, start back at the bottom and kind of give myself a new goal and a new drive and a new kind of, you know, target to set my eyes on. So it just, at the time, it felt right, and seems to have worked out so far. It seems like it, yeah. I would argue that you were right by coming over.
Yeah.
We've seen, like, you know, WWE just posted the AJ Styles match from last year's TLC on their YouTube channel, which I'm glad they did, because, you know, I think that the WWE moves at such a rapid pace. I sometimes get worried that certain moments, people don't think about them enough. Like, I think I would hope that people haven't forgotten that, like, it was only a year ago that out of nowhere, with 2 days' notice, you and AJ had this classic dream match. Are you happy with the way that match went? And with as much sort of hypothetical buildup as there was to that match, and then when the match actually happened, where it's just like, oh, we're just going to do it right now. Are you happy in hindsight with that match?
I'm happy in hindsight, in the sense that, like, what could have been for that show, with, like, you know, with the Demon versus Bray Wyatt and all that kind of wacky storyline that we were doing at the time.
Yeah.
and then what it transformed into, which was like, you know, the match with me and AJ. And obviously, like, it was unfortunate that, you know, 3 of the boys went down real sick, but I think that, you know, I was the one that kind of came out with the silver lining on that one. Obviously, like, me and AJ had never wrestled, and like a lot of people would have maybe preferred, you know, having a big build-up. But man, essentially, we had the match. It was, you know, from what I can remember, it was a lot of fun. I don't watch my matches back, so like I can't say if I'm happy or not. But like the fact that you're still talking about it a year later, and like they've just put it on the YouTube channel and stuff like that. You know, some people liked it for sure. So.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it was fun.
I'm looking forward to doing it again. Like, because I felt like that kind of happened like out of nowhere. I was still kind of finding my feet in WWE, kind of getting back off the injury, and I feel like, you know, in the year that I've been back since that match, you know, I feel like I really found my feet in the ring and kind of working on a different frequency right now. So I think like that match with me and AJ, like sometime in the future, is gonna blow that match we had before at the water.
Yeah, was that tough for you after you went down with the injury? Because I don't even think people realize that even though you won the Universal title that year at SummerSlam, you had only had like 3 televised matches or something like that on the main roster. So like after three matches, you go down with this injury, you're out for all these months, and you come back, and it's almost like you've been on the main roster the whole time. But you've had literally, not only have you been out with this injury, but before the injury, you had no time to get acclimated to what the main roster even was. But all of us watching were like, yeah, he's been here for 8 months. What's the deal? Let's go. Come on, guy.
You know, I'm glad you pointed that out, because like I hadn't got a clue what I was doing those first 3 weeks. Like I was still trying to figure out like how to work like live TV, how to like kind of like get acclimated with like the bigger venues that we were doing, the different talent that I was working against. You know, all the different like office staff and stuff that I have to deal with like at Raw. And then like obviously I got down injured, and you know, because I guess you know, the injury was kind of so high profile in how it happened, and then like I never really went away because, you know, with social media and the 24 documentary and stuff, people kind of like got used to me being around. And you know, when I finally come back, I haven't really been gone, so they've kind of been looking at me for a year. Well, like I've only had like this, when I come back, it's like my 4th match, you know, for WWE Raw. So like, you know, I really believe like that, like from when I came back was like a reset, and that was kind of like my first match in WWE, because like that was obviously trying to deal with the injury and adjust my style to suit, you know, how my body felt, and then like, you know, adjust my style to working for WWE, which I hadn't done yet. Like I was still kind of working the NXT style, and kind of like it really took like a year from like when I came back, like right after WrestleMania up until like the WrestleMania with Miz and Seth. That was like a 1 year period. So that was like, it's a pretty short run on the main roster when you think about it. So like I feel like after maybe that Mania is when I kind of started getting my feet going, and like now I feel like I'm in better like ring shape than I've ever been. So I think definitely a lot of people like you said, like took it for granted that like how long I'd been around, because like 8 of those months I was just kind of, you know, tweeting stuff. You know, I wasn't actually wrestling.
Yeah, you were contributing to Raw as much as all the rest of us were. You were just live tweeting, like. But it is. I mean, I'd say it's a compliment to you, the fact that nobody realized that you were spending a year trying to figure out how to do this stuff. The rest of us watching were just like, yeah, he's here. We're doing it. It's time. We're here now. Nobody really realized that you were figuring it out as you went. By the way, speaking of people figuring it out, you've known Becky Lynch forever. You know, you've known her for so many years, and you were part of her training way back when. Can you believe the run that she's on right now, and to what do you credit the fact that this is all happening for her at this moment?
First question, can I believe that this is happening? Absolutely yes. Second question, what do I attribute it to? I think I've always believed that Becky had that in her. I just don't know that she believed it. I think like maybe in the last couple of months she started to kind of like get that like self-confidence that, you know, I think everyone believed in her except herself, and finally she got that self-confidence, and like she's been rocking. And man, I think it's unbelievable to watch, and I think it's only going to get bigger, man, because she is on fire right now, and it's incredible to see. And like, she's been around almost as long as me, man. She's doing this like 15, 16 years or something. So she knows exactly what she's doing in the ring. She's comfortable. Her promos are on fire, and she's killing it. So long may it continue.
It really is amazing that, when we watch you guys, right? When we watch, and I say you guys in, men, women, everybody, when we watch you perform, it's like none of us know what's going on in your head, right? And that's sort of, whether it's Becky's self-consciousness, whether it's you trying to figure out, exactly how to do this stuff. To you guys, it's probably kind of omnipresent, but to all of us watching, we never pick up on any of it, Like I've always found that amazing, that because I think we all have versions of it, whether we're wrestlers or not, like the stuff that exists in our head that we think is sort of, written all over our face is invisible to everybody else.
Yeah. I think like you get to a point in like any kind of profession that like you start doing it without even thinking. Mm-hmm. And I think it's at that point where like you become like yourself, and you don't have to worry about, what move am I doing next? What camera am I supposed to be looking at? Should I, fire up the people right now? And I think like once you start like living in the moment and actually just going out there and enjoying it, which I am now, I feel like that's when you hit your stride and you start delivering your best work. Like I remember for the first 6 months of like coming back from the injury, I'd be like behind the curtain. I'd be nervous. I'd be pacing up and down. I'd be like stretching, like trying to figure out everything I'm doing, going through like every possible scenario in my head of what could happen, what will happen, what won't happen. Oh, what happens if this goes wrong? If he comes at me that way, what am I gonna do? And now like I just sit behind the curtain with my legs folded, like waiting kind of to go, hey, when are they gonna play my music?
Yeah.
I feel like once you get to like that level where like you're comfortable in yourself and you trust your ability to like do it in the moment, as opposed to like trying to like prepare everything and plan everything out meticulously, that's like when kind of stuff happens naturally, and that's when you perform at your best. Like I'm sure like you were the same when you were, hosting shows when you're 21, 22.
For sure.
Trying to like plan out what sentence you're going to use, or what question. Where now like we're just kind of like having a conversation. So it's I feel like that definitely helps out. Once you stop thinking about it and just going out there and doing it is when your best work happens.
Especially because you only paint up twice a year, so it's like you don't even have to worry about that anymore. You really do just sit back.
Well, you see, that's an interesting question, right? Because I do it so infrequently now that like I forget how I move as the Demon. I forget the subtle differences in the entrance.
Right.
I forget I forget the mannerisms that I used like 6 months ago to like represent like how the Demon works. So like every time I go back to the Demon, I gotta like re-educate myself beforehand and kind of step into that zone and that moment. Like now when I go out there, like, I'm Finn Balor, but like that's just Virgo. Like underneath all the layers of like leather jacket, entrance music, like, extraordinary man who can do extraordinary things. It's just like me, like the human that goes out there. But like when the Demon goes out there, like I need to like transform into like a different person. So like that mindset, like because like it's it's not like I'm not tapping into it so often. Like that's like a huge challenge for me now because like I gotta figure out like how to do that every time again. So sometimes like right now I'm very comfortable going out there being Finn, but like when it comes to the Demon, like I gotta re-educate myself again. When I'm going out there. So that's kind of an added challenge, like how infrequent we're doing it. So but at the same time, it also adds like a lot of mystique to it and makes it more special. So I'm just happy how things are going. And here comes TLC.
Yeah, and you got to remember to slap that.
Hey Sam, is there a stipulation in this match, or is it just a straight?
No. I've checked my verified mentions. No stipulation has been announced. No stipulation has been announced so far, but who knows? Who knows? It could be. I don't know for sure. Friday, this coming Friday, December 7th, tickets for NXT TakeOver New York, which is what this show is being called, Hall of Fame, Raw, and SmackDown for WrestleMania weekend and Monday and Tuesday all go on sale. Barclays Center. It's going to be an amazing weekend. You guys should jump on the tickets right away. And let's not forget, a lot of times these Raw and SmackDowns right after WrestleMania. It used to be the Raw after WrestleMania. Now it's the Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania. That's when a bunch of people get called up. That's when theoretically, who knows, sometimes things get shaken up. And this is the last question, if the weekend of WrestleMania you find out after whatever you do at WrestleMania, I know you don't like to think in advance, but just bear with me on this one. If you find out, Finn, you have Monday off because you're going to be on SmackDown on Tuesday going forward. Do you take it as good news? Do you take it as bad news? Do you take it as a challenge and go forward?
I take it as good news that I'm getting to step in a ring on Tuesday as opposed to not stepping in a ring at all. So
that's a great attitude.
Honestly, man, you could put me in a ring like in the parking lot of Walmart, and I'll be happy. So, once I'm in a wrestling ring, that's all I care about. Whether it's a red one or a blue one or a yellow one, or anything, I'll be happy.
We'll buy all these tickets. You'll get the opportunity to see Finn Balor in a ring as much as humanly possible WrestleMania weekend. Of course, TLC is coming up on the WWE Network, Raw on every Monday night. Finn Balor, it's always such a pleasure. Thank you so much, man.
Sam, good to talk to you, buddy.